Good evening and welcome to Encore, your weekly arts and entertainment show on Midlands 103 with myself, Zoe Ryan, filling in once again for Claire O'Brien. On tonight's show, a first for Irish Airways, navigating applications and a question of faith. In light of the basic income for the arts applications opening this week, Sheila Maloney of 2020 Curates offers her expertise on filling in the paperwork. Director of Ballally Players Sean Murphy discusses bringing heaven back to the Midlands. And Fourth Wall Laois Theatre Group try their hand at tackling John B. Keane's religious comedy Moll. But first, on the back of the Irish leg of their current tour, we have music from a Scottish folk band called Beluga Lagoon. And yes, every time I say their name, I am asked to repeat myself, so I will. That's Beluga Lagoon. Beluga like the whale and lagoon as in the mass of water. They played the Academy in Dublin and Limelight in Belfast a couple of weeks ago, but last weekend I went to see them in their native Scotland at the legendary Barrowlands Ballroom in Glasgow, and in true theatrical style, I brought a prop, which did turn a few heads. So for a bit of context, they have a song about a radio station and more specifically a radio presenter. So I brought an on-air sign like the bright red one that's lit up before me now, but a portable one, with the intention of holding it up throughout the concert as a request, if you will, for them to play it. But to my surprise, they actually played it as the first song. But a few people, obviously fellow fans of the track, did notice me holding it up and asked me if they could take pictures of it. And later in the set, the lead singer did point it out in the crowd, so I was delighted with myself. Definitely worth the stress of trying to get it past security, but you can be the judge of if the song deserves the place I have reserved for it in my heart. This is Beluga Lagoon with Misty Monroe. It gives me goosebumps every time. That was Misty Monroe FM from Beluga Lagoon. They've not yet hit the Irish charts, but they recently collaborated with another Scottish band, Valtos, on a track that has gained them a lot of attention. So hopefully that song, The Ghost, which features some Scottish Gaelic, will help them get there. But until then, you can say you heard them first on Midlands 103. Up next, could you be eligible to apply for the basic income for the arts scheme? Find out after this. Midlands 103. You are listening to Encore on Midlands 103 with Zoe Ryan. Now, earlier in the year, the government announced on the back of the successful pilot run of the basic income for the arts that the scheme would be extended. Applications officially opened yesterday, and arts business mentor and the personality behind 2020 Curates, Sheila Maloney, has kindly offered to talk us through it. Sheila, thank you for gracing us with your expertise on the show this evening.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Now, Sheila, for anybody who's maybe unfamiliar with basic income for the arts, could you give us a quick rundown on what it is and why it exists?
Well, essentially, it's a support scheme for the arts in general. So it's a nice broad spectrum. And its aim is really to allow those working in the arts a foundation to build their business on so that they can become sort of more self-sufficient than they might be as they are now. Those who are in the arts will know this. Those who are not maybe won't be so familiar. But steady income is one of the trickiest things to manage when you're working in the arts. And the purpose of this scheme is to allow, like I said, a little bit of a foundation, a bit of a cushion, so that you have that for the 3 years and then you can build upon it with the security of knowing that, well, at least I'm getting a certain amount of money every week.
And as I said, they did run a pilot for a number of years, and then it was at the start of this year they actually announced, OK, this is going to be extended and they're going to run it now from 26 to 29. So for anybody who's listening and thinking, I wonder, am I eligible for this? Who can actually apply for this? You've said artists, but something that I was looking into when they announced it was, I don't see a list of, say, approved artists that could apply for it. Does such a thing exist, or is it a case of you could argue that your work is an art?
That's a great question. I don't think there is a complete list. You're right, that's missing from the guidelines. I think, as I mentioned earlier, it's the arts spectrum, and I know with the pilot that included even a couple of architects.
Yes.
So it's a relatively broad definition, and I think provided you can meet the guidelines, and I think specifically around what they're calling proofs of practice, that you can prove you have a professional creative practice, then it's sort of the onus is on you to do that and show them that you are working in that area in this way. And then if you're eligible for that, you get into the lottery draw.
I was thinking more along the lines of as well, could you have the likes of, say, influencers, content creators, could they be trying to pass off now that they are artists, or is it more traditional roots? And I suppose it looks like there's a little bit of a gap there from what I can see. It doesn't look like they have said black and white, this is what we will consider an artist. Don't apply if you don't fall under these guidelines.
Yeah, that's very fair, and it's something I hadn't thought of myself necessarily. I do think, though, the proofs of practice are the thing that will rule people in and out largely, you know, because they are very specific. And if when you're talking about content creators and that, like, they won't be able to meet those requirements, I feel. So I think it's broad enough that it allows the people who can genuinely apply, but rules out those that are just, too far beyond the definition.
Talk me through your proofs of practice then, because I went onto the website and I saw all this list of the proofs, and at first I thought you had to provide all of them, but am I right in saying that you actually only need to select 3? That big list that I saw is just examples of proofs of practice, and you select 3 of those to submit. Exactly.
It's a scary list when you looked at it first. I thought the same thing myself, but yes. So you do only need to provide 3. The small catch there, the thing to watch out for, is 2 of those 3 have to prove that your practice is based in Ireland.
Okay.
So, for example, one of the options is that you have received funding either from the Arts Council or a local council, and so that would prove that your practice is in Ireland, because neither of those bodies would give you funding if you weren't based in Ireland. So I think that's the small catch to watch for. But other than that, you have quite a broad scope. Particularly, I think the visual artists are especially lucky in that an awful lot of them cover what they do. For the other things like playwriting and music and things, they have their own specific ones. But yeah, so it's not as scary as it looks. It is just the 3, but the 2 have to prove that you're based in Ireland.
So what is involved then? Talk me through the process for anyone who's looking to think, yeah, I do think I want to apply for this. I know that you put up a post online recently where you very clearly broke down, okay, anybody who's thinking about doing this is what you need to have prepared for it. So what is involved?
So I think now that the window is open, we can start to look at exactly what you need. And first of all, what's very important is that you have all your facts and figures straight. That's something, again, that a lot of the time you mightn't have to hand, but spending some time now to do that, so that when you go into the application portal and you start looking at the survey that you have to respond to, they're looking for things like your income as an artist over the last 3 years, and also any work that you've done as an artist, paid or unpaid, in that time as well. So you might, and if you're very organised, you might have a spreadsheet with all of that information to hand. But if not, it might take you some time to gather that information together. Yes. So you certainly have to do a little bit of preparation around that, as well as we talked about, your proofs of practice. And then you have to apply using the gov.ie portal. So you can't just email them with your information or anything like that. You have to use that system. So you also have to register for that. So that's very important as well.
And you also have to register as self-employed if you're not already with Revenue.
Yes. Now, there's a lot of confusion around that, and I contributed to some of that confusion myself when I read the guidelines. So you do have to register as self-employed if you're selected for the scheme.
Okay.
So if you don't have to do it beforehand, but if you are applying for the scheme, you'll be applying in the hopes that you get it. So you need to be prepared for the fact that if you do get it, you then must register as self-employed so that you can submit your Form 11 and be taxed on that income that they're giving you.
Okay, so being registered as self-employed is a condition for when you actually have been approved for it in order to receive the funding, but you don't have to do that as, we'll say, a preparation. You can do that when the time comes if you're selected.
Absolutely, yes. But I think it is something that it's a decision for some people. So I think it is something to consider ahead of applying at the same time, and be ready to do that when the time comes.
Because obviously there would be a lot of people, as you say, working in the artistic profession that exactly for why this was designed, they find that they can't live on the money that they're making through their art. So they are actually working in other employment. So in order to be eligible, I suppose, for this grant, you'd have to say, well, am I okay to actually step away from this employment and then, as you say, go self-employed and fully dedicate to the art? But at the end of the day, that is exactly why this was designed. It was a recognition from the government that we have so many artists, but that sometimes because they can't focus on their craft and also sustain their lifestyle, they can't make enough money from that they just need a little bit of a break. They need a bit of time to be able to focus on their art, and that's why this has been introduced.
Exactly, you've hit the nail on the head there. That's exactly what it's for. And again, I think the way to think about it as an artist, if you're thinking about applying, is that it's giving you 3 years to move yourself from where you are now to a stronger position. It's not necessarily just 3 years of support that you can drift along as you are now. And I know that caused a little upset with some of the people on the pilot. They hadn't considered it that way. And so then when the money was being withdrawn at the end of the 3 years, there was a lot of panic. So that's not what you want. You want to go into it thinking exactly what you've said. Right, if I get this, it's going to give me 3 years to focus mostly solely on my art practice. And what do I want to do in that 3 years with that cushion of a foundation so that I can build on what I have now. And I think that's as well why the guidelines generally are quite stringent, because they are really wanting to appeal to the people who are at that point now. That a lot of the experimentation is over, that they are people who have been working to a point where, okay, now I really need the time to be able to focus on this completely and push it really forward. So I think that's an important thing to think about as well if you're considering applying.
And you're saying with this one, it's giving you the 3 years because that's the duration of this scheme that it's running for. But there's a similar funding, I believe, job seekers for artists. And it's similar in the sense of, I believe, for a year, they'll say, OK, you don't have to do the mandatory, we'll say, being called upon to do interviews because we recognise you're an artist and you're chipping away at your own thing. And this is something that can take time. Could that be an option for someone then if they feel like maybe the basic income for the arts isn't exactly for them, if they're not at that point yet where they're gone, I can fully dedicate to this. Maybe they're still in the experimental stage. Could that one be an option then?
Yes, absolutely. And it's definitely something to look into if you feel I'm not ready for the basic income, but I do need something. And I think as well that now what they're looking for. You know that they're going to be looking for proof of it within the next 3 years because it's 3 year windows they're looking for the information for. So you'll know exactly what to work on in that 3 years, which might actually make your case for applying for the other scheme even stronger. Yes. They're just saying, well, look, this is exactly what I want to do. I want to get myself prepared for 2030 when the next round opens. And so it is a case that anybody who's going to be applying for this and who will be getting it then, they have to apply this year and they'll be approved for the 3 years. This isn't an ongoing running thing. It's not like it'll be open again next year. Is that correct? That's right, yeah. So they're running it on a 3 year rolling basis. So you can apply this year. If you don't get it this year, you can apply in 3 years' time. If you do get it this year, you can't apply in the next 3 year block. You have to wait a 3 year block and then apply for the one after that. Okay. So it's a way, I assume, to make it as fair as possible and in order to be able to serve as many artists as possible. And Sheila, what is the time frame to apply then? So as I said, the application process, it technically opened yesterday. So how long do people have to apply for this? When have those applications to be in for? So you have until the 12th of May. So you've just under a month. Which is a lot of time, to be fair, but I'm going to give a bit of a warning now and don't leave it till, the 11th of May to decide that you're going to apply. Use the time you have now. There's a reason that they've given you a window that's so big. They know that it's going to take some time. And I know even in the guidelines document on gov.ie, it says that, this application, submitting the information, just uploading the information is going to take you about 40 to 90 minutes. Okay, right. So if you think about that, and then you have to do a little bit of research and gathering your information in the meantime, this isn't really something that you can do the night before, and particularly if you want to give yourself the best chance. And as you said, there could be a little bit of searching going on here that you're going, okay, I know I did do that work, we'll say last year, but maybe I didn't get the correct invoice. Maybe I need to reach out to the people that I did the work with to get them to send me a formal written letter. So there could be a little bit of that going on as well, where you mightn't have all the documentation that you need at hand. Absolutely, yeah. But with regards to the application process itself, is it a stop-start option? Can someone go in, we'll say, and, do a certain segment of it and then say, okay, I'm going to save that and I'm going to come back and I'm going to chip away at another date. Maybe when they're partially through it, they realise, I actually don't have that documentation. I do need to go away and get it. Or is it a case of you need to carve out time to dedicate, okay, I'm going to sit down for a couple of hours tonight and get all this done? Or as I said, is there that option there that you're logging into a portal and you can kind of stop, save it and resume at a later date? Yeah, it is stated in the guidelines, all right, that you can stop start. You can go in and do a bit of it, come out, it'll save it, you come out, go back in, which is handy. I wouldn't solely rely on that though. I would keep a copy of your information in a separate document in a separate place, just in case.
Just to be safe. Technology, can be unreliable by times.
The gremlins can show their heads, just when you don't want them to.
And finally, what would your final words of wisdom be to anybody who's thinking about applying for the basic income from the arts? Maybe it's a case of people are sitting there going, I don't know if I'm eligible, or I don't know if I really have all the documentation that they're looking for. If someone's kind of unsure and on the fence, what would you say?
Don't make any assumptions. Do your research, find out if you are eligible, and if you are eligible, apply. It's going to be really valuable for you personally, the application process alone, because you'll learn a lot about what's been happening in your practice for the last 3 years and also what you might like to do with the next 3. And also don't be frightened about the fact that, lots and lots of people are maybe going to apply, so my chances are low. If you're eligible, you have as much chance as anybody else.
So basically, if you're thinking about it at all, apply.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Sheila, thank you so much for joining me on the show this evening.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Well, you heard it there. Get working on your application sooner rather than later. The closing date for submissions is May 12th. And if selected for the scheme, it could give you the time that you need to take your craft to that next level without the ever looming concern of where your next paycheck is coming from. Still to come, heaven really is a place on earth. And according to awfully born playwright and screenwriter Eugene O'Brien, it's located in the Midlands. Midlands 103. It is Encore with Zoe Ryan, bringing you a little bit of heaven. The award-winning play has found its way back home, with the Ball Alley Players bringing it to Birr next week and Athlone the week after. Joining me now on the line to discuss it is director Sean Murphy. Sean, without giving too much away, could you give us a brief synopsis of the storyline so prospective theatre goers know what to expect?
So Heaven was written by the great Eugene O'Brien, so he's a proud Offaly man, obviously, best known for his very successful play Eden and Pure Mule, which is the TV series that he wrote for RTE back in the 2000s. And Heaven, it's in a nutshell, it's about an ordinary couple, Mal and Mairead, telling us their story at a wedding that they attend somewhere in County Offaly, most likely Eden Derry. The couple are in their 50s. They're not unhappily married. They're very good friends, and this is quite apparent during the play. But it's clear that for a number of reasons, the spark has gone out in the marriage, and that they've both reached a point in their lives where I suppose they're beginning to question what it's all about and what might it be. Audiences have really connected with it because it goes themes like marriage, mischances, was what it's like to imagine a different life to the one you're living. And I guess, like all good drama, audiences are seeing parts of their own lives reflected back at them when they visit the show,
So it makes sense that it's making its way back to the Midlands. As you said, it's set in the town of Eden Derry, but it has been making great strides and achievements outside of the Midlands region. That's
right. So we're performing this with my group is a group called Ball Alley Players, and we're based in the Dundrum area of Dublin. We've been producing work since 1983, so over 40 years at this stage. Part of our kind of yearly output, we typically produce plays for the drama circuits, the drama festival circuits, both the one act and the full length. Many of your listeners would know that there's a really strong drama festival circuit in Ireland, both in terms of interest, attendances, and also standards. With the full length circuit happening in March of every year, and then that culminates in the All Ireland finals in Athlone every May, the mecca of amateur drama, as it's known. So I approached our committee back in September of last year with a view to directing Heaven as our production for this year's circuit. And as you said, we've just had a really successful run on the circuit, playing to audiences all across the country, from Ballyshannon to Wexford and from Newry down to Holy Cross. We did 8 shows in total. And from that competition, we qualified for this year's All Ireland in Athlone.
And what has it been like for you as a director? So as you said, you obviously pitched the idea to the group to say, I think that we should do this one. Then you got the green light. Has it been a challenge for you as a director to put this together and for it to be what it has become? Or did it all come quite easily, as in, did you get the right characters? Did you get the right feeling for it? Or how has that experience as a director been for you?
It's been a wonderful experience, because I think I first saw the play back in 2022 when it launched at the Dublin Theatre Festival, and it's been swimming around my brain ever since. Right. And when I approached the committee, I had some ideas in terms of what I was going to do and how I was going to approach it. But it was only when I started, I was I found a fantastic cast in Claire Parks and Declan O'Loughlin, who were playing the couple. And then beyond that, then I had a fairly good idea of the team that I was going to use for it. Really blessed in Ballally players with the quality of the people that are there. So an amazing crew of backstage people who've given so much time over the past 4 or 5 months to get the show out on the road. So from a practical resourcing point of view, I was quite confident starting off that I'd have a good team to work with me on it. And that came to pass. And then after that, it's the typical process from a director's perspective of going into the rehearsal room with some ideas in your head, but really having to remain open to what happens on the floor and what happens, as you progress through the script and you become really deeply immersed in it. So I don't think I've strayed too far from my original, I suppose, concepts in it, but they've definitely evolved and grown over the past few months,
And what was it about the play that stood out for you that you said, yeah, I'd love to do this? You said the first time you saw it, it just stuck in your mind after that. What was it about it? Was it the script? Was it the setting? What was it about it that you went, I'd love to do this myself someday?
Yeah, I was immediately taken by it. I mean, it was originally performed for a number of years with the brilliant Andrew Bennett and Janet Moore. And I think they actually performed then in Tullamore at some point over the last couple of years as well. I was just immediately taken by the story, the simplicity of it. It was just one of those ones that stayed with me for days afterwards. The writing is just brilliant. It really is. It's just it's rooted in this really rugged, raw Irish Midlands vernacular. It's very local, like the language is really lived in, but it just consistently reaches beyond that local dimension to address universal human concerns, if I could put it that way. We're seeing two characters just questioning their lives in a really profound and heartbreaking way at times. There's loads of humour and warmth in it, especially in terms of how the characters, think versus how they behave. It's a really special show. You've two actors. It's very intimate. The audience is just really engaged throughout the story, and it's very much about the storytelling and the performance. And it struck a chord with me from the moment that I saw it. And I think the response that we've had to it on the circuit, people have just really responded to the story. They just love the simplicity of the story, but the idea that people leave really thinking about it. We've had so many messages from people who've contacted us days and weeks after saying, I'm still thinking about that play. I'm still thinking about the story that you told there, which is obviously the type of impact that you want to have when you put something like this on.
Yeah, I was just about to say that for a director, for you, that must be almost the greatest compliment that you could get, is that you obviously set out to do something with a piece and to do exactly that, to make people feel and to let it sit with people, that people don't just even go, oh yeah, that was great, and not think about it again. You want to plant a seed and for people to think about it. So the fact that that's the feedback you're getting, that must be a real sense of achievement for you as a director.
It is very much so. I think you try to get the goosebump moments yourself as you're going through it in rehearsals, and as you're doing your first few shows. I always find a true test of a show, either that I'm involved in myself or whether I'm going to see, are the ones that make the hair stand on the back of your arm or the back of your neck. Those moments in the theatre where you just get a physical reaction to something that's happening on stage. So as we went through rehearsals and as we did our initial shows, I was beginning to get those moments. So I kind of felt that it was in a good place. And then, yeah, as you say, to get that validated then from audiences that have seen it, it's absolutely makes me very happy to kind of get to this place. And look, to reiterate again, these kind of shows, to state the obvious, they don't happen without the team in the background. So I'm absolutely blessed with the team of people both on the stage and backstage who are putting this together with us.
And its reputation evidently does pre-deceive it, because one of your upcoming gigs that you have in the Midlands in the Dean Crow in Athlone, that's actually completely sold out for the 30th of April, but you do have some availability still left for your slot in Birr on the 26th of April.
We do. We are completely sold out in Athlone in the Dean Crow, so over 450 seats were sold out within about 3 or 4 hours of them going on sale last week, which was lovely to see. But yes, we have our last Athlone performance in Birr, and we weren't sure. It came about kind of at the last minute in terms of where we would go.
Right.
But when we thought about Birr, we had done a show in Birr last summer, and we popped into the Art Centre and Theatre while we were there, and we just were very much taken by the space. It's beautiful. So when we were thinking about where we might go, obviously you're trying to get a date as close as possible to your performance date in Athlone. The stars aligned, and the guys then in Burr had a slot available for us on Sunday the 26th. So yeah, we're bringing it back for one night only down to Burr. And it's a really fitting venue because we were informed after we'd actually booked it that the Burr Theatre was the place where the play was first introduced to an audience through a rehearsed reading by Fishamble back in 2021.
Fantastic.
Before it actually went out on the road itself with its first production. So it feels very, very fitting. And we also know that Eugene has very close ties to the venue as well. So yeah, we're really looking forward to bringing it to Burr.
A lovely little nod for it, as you said, to close off its kind of circuit. So it is coming to the Midlands. Where is it going then after that? Is it going to live on for much longer with yourselves, or is this coming to the end of your stint with it?
It's most likely coming to an end, Zoe. The nature of these types of shows is that they have a lifespan of the circuit, and then once you get to the end of the circuit, we put them to bed. Unless somebody comes along and says to us if we could do it somewhere else and pay us to do it, we absolutely will. But no, it's most likely going to finish after Athlone.
So that's maybe the end of the line for Heaven with yourselves. But what's next for Sean Murphy? What project are you going to be moving on to then after you finish your stint with Heaven?
I'll be taking a long rest, Zoe, after this, because it's been very, very tiring and exhausting for the last few months, especially the circuit. The circuit is grueling. The month of March is very intense in terms of travelling around the country, getting shows ready in a day. So it's quite tiring. So I don't have anything on the immediate horizon once this is over, apart from a rest. But once the summer is out and the autumn comes back in again, I'll probably start thinking again what's next on the horizon.
Midlands 103.
You are very welcome back to Encore on Midlands 103, where we are going from the writings of a local legend to a national treasure. Over the coming weeks, Fourth Wall Laois Theatre Group are bringing John B. Keane's clerical comedy Moll to a stage near you, performing in venues across Laois, Offaly and Westmeath. To tell me all about it is their leading lady, Regina O'Kelly. Regina, thanks very much for joining me this evening.
Thank you very much. It's great to have the opportunity to come on the show.
Now, Regina, before we get on to talking about the actual play itself, I believe that this is your big stage debut.
Indeed, yes. I didn't think when I went one wet November evening that I'd end up landing the part of Moll, but it's been a really good experience.
Why is now the stage debut? Why is it that you've decided to get involved?
Well, I have recently retired from my job. I worked as a doctor, a GP in Carlow Town for years, and it's very time consuming. And when you go into any voluntary grouping or organisation, you have to commit to it. And I couldn't always commit to attend all rehearsals or things like that. But it's always something that I've wanted to do. I did some acting, in teenage years, early 20s, but it's been on the back burner for a long time. And I'm interested in music. I've taken up singing, that is classical singing. I have an excellent teacher for the last year. So I have time to do that part of me that I had to put to one side, that creative part of me. And I must say I'm enjoying it.
And the play itself then, it is, for want of a better phrase, a clergy or a religious satire, which we seem to love as a nation here in Ireland. We can just look at the success of Father Ted as proof of that. Without giving too much away, can you give me a quick synopsis of the plotline?
So what happens is the presbytery loses its housekeeper. So then they have to go and interview for a new housekeeper. And in the play, there are two candidates, and I'm the second candidate, and I get the job. And what happens is that over the course of the play, Moll is able to do lots of things in the parish that the priests haven't bothered to do. And she's very good at raising money and getting money from the parishioners, and also getting a little bit of money for herself, for her future. So there's a battle between Moll and the senior curate, Father Brest. The canon is quite happy to go along with Moll. And the junior curate, he does whatever Father Brest says. But everybody does what Moll says.
Right. So there's a bit of conflict there between the two characters.
Yes, yes.
Now, you mentioned there that when this was originally released on the set, when, John B. Keane would have originally written it, the church were not so happy about it. So is it a case of, do you think it fits today's society more, that people will get more of a kick out of it? Or do you still think that maybe it's not a play for everyone, that some people will get the humour of it, but maybe others will go, I don't like that?
No, I think in some ways it's quite gentle. I mean, I was surprised when I heard that they frowned upon it initially.
Okay.
It's John B. Keane, so some of the language is quite dated, and that made it actually quite difficult to learn. He loves his alliteration, he loves that. And, he has these little garbs every so often, against the church. I mean, I have some of the best lines. There's one line in which I say, "And pray, what has the church got to do with me? Sure, an altar boy is higher up in the church than I am." And it is a commentary on how women in the church weren't really considered. But Maul changes all that.
And how did you find taking on the role? You said that you have been enjoying it, but it feels like it is, from what you've described, it's quite a revolutionary role, I suppose, at the time, that it's showing that, the women are always in the background when it comes to the church. And it's showing that behind every good priest is the likes of a woman like Moll.
Yes, I mean, the parish housekeeper had a very important role in the local community. I mean, she probably was the gatekeeper to access to the priests or the canon. But Moll is a woman way ahead of her time in some ways. And that's why I love playing the part. You can just play it as a very one-dimensional character, but she has great humour as well. She's very intelligent, very astute, very bright, knows how to handle these three men and get the best out of them. And that's what I really enjoy about playing the role.
We mentioned there about the dedication that goes into the likes of these amateur productions, and it is, for want of a phrase, it consumes a lot of your time, from the time that you audition to the time you get your script, and then you're straight into rehearsals for just a couple of days to actually perform on stage. What will you do with your time now after the stint has ended? You mentioned there that you have the 3 venues coming up in the Midlands, and then you have your last couple of performances, and then that's it. What are you going to do then?
Well, we'll just have to wait and see. We haven't decided on any play for next year, but I would like to continue with the group, or maybe, if the group isn't performing next year, to look at another group in the Portlaoise area, if they'll have me. But I will continue that, and I will concentrate a little bit more over the summertime on my singing. That's what I'm going to do.
So although this is the first of your stage productions, it won't be the last?
I hope not.
Fantastic. Regina, thank you so much for speaking with me this evening, and best of luck with the upcoming productions. You said you've had your first one already, you got a taste for it, and no doubt now you're excited to get back into it and get on stage again.
Thank you so much, Zoe. We really appreciate it. Fourth Wall sends all our best wishes to everyone.
And a reminder that you can catch Fourth Wall Laois Theatre Group's production of Moll at the Tour Ard in Moat this weekend, Saturday 18th, in the Dunamaze Arts Centre the following Saturday, April 25th, and in Burr Theatre on May 9th. So loads of opportunities to catch it there, and they're always looking and open to new members joining. So if, like Regina, you have recently come into a bit more time and want to get reintroduced with your creative side, or you're just looking for a new pastime, do get in touch with Fourth Wall Laois Theatre Group. And that brings tonight's show to a close. Thank you to all my guests and to you for listening. Next week we have more theatre antics in store, as well as an actuary turned comedian. Until then, good night.